Communicating with the parents of hundreds of students is tricky. I totally understand it. But when we have proactive communication, if we ever have to reach out when there is an issue, it makes things so much smoother.
You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarbett, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
Welcome back to That Music Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about parent communication. And not just that, but being proactive when communicating with parents and grown-ups and guardians of our students. Because the reality is, nobody likes getting communicated and having this first conversation being a negative one. And like it or not, sometimes we as teachers need to have conversations with parents and grown-ups that are not so fun. For instance, when there are discipline issues, or if when work might not be completed if you're on the upper grades. These are conversations that nobody enjoys, and let's be honest, have a real tendency to go south very quickly. So what can we do as teachers, especially as teachers who see hundreds of students, to get this proactive communication going so that if there is an issue, we're better set up and we have that relationship and rapport already, but also so we can make sure that there are no surprises when grade cards come out, when there's a concert and so-and-so doesn't get a solo or whatever. How can we make sure that our parents and our grown-ups understand what's going on in our classroom so that there aren't any surprises along the way? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I will be the first one to tell you that this is not necessarily an easy task, especially when we see so many students, but it's important. So I'm going to try to offer you some tips to make it a little bit easier. The first thing that I recommend is reaching out to the grown-ups of new families. So for me, I did this for every kindergartner and every anyone that we had move in into our class. I would just send a message on Class Dojo or whatever app we were using at that point and just say, hey, I'm excited to have your student this year in music class. I'm Mr. Tarbett. We'll have a performance later on in the year, but we'll be sure to send home more information later on. Looking forward to getting to know your student in the music classroom. Really simple like that. It didn't take me very long. I mean, it took some time, but you only have to do it the once. And that alone is going to initiate that conversation, especially if they're just moving into the school at an upper grade. They're probably going to hear less welcomes because it's not like a kindergartner where everyone's new, right? So they probably are going to be really impressed that you took some time and reached out to them. And you never know what kind of information they're going to give back. They might say, hey, Johnny loved music class at his old school, or hey, Johnny really struggled with his old teacher, yada, yada, yada. And this is a way to open that dialogue. The reason I like communicating through an app is because, one, it makes it really accessible, because a lot of these apps, I know Class Dojo does it and a bunch other too, there's an option where the families can translate it on their end so they can read it in their native language. Obviously, translations aren't perfect, but it is a good way to start removing that barrier. Also, it makes it a way that you can kind of go back and look at old conversations. So if you notice that, hey, you've been communicating with this parent for a while and things are just starting to go down south, you have a record of what you reaching out, or them reaching out to you, and kind of basically it's all clear. There are no surprises, there's no ambiguity, it's all there, right? We have that record of it. Also, it makes it easier for us to actually communicate because we don't have to be at our phones the same time the grown-ups are at their phones, right? So for instance, I would do all of this at the end of the day when student or parents had probably already picked up their students for the day, or we're still at work. So trying to call home at that point wasn't really going to help anyway. So by being able to do it something like an email or one of these apps like I mentioned, it allows us to answer when we have time, and it also is a good way for us to keep that communication going, but also be all right, it's 6 o'clock. You can respond back, but I'm not going to respond until the next morning. That kind of thing. So that is a great way, is to just reach out to any new families and welcome them and reach out personally. Don't just send a mass text. You can send the same message, but send it in its own thread. And especially if you can change the name of it, so excited to welcome Johnny in your classroom or whatever. That can be huge. Especially if they did not have a super great relationship with the previous music teacher. That is a good way to say, hey, I'm trying to be proactive and get this going. Beyond that, I always tried to send home a message. Now, I'll be honest, this is one of those things that I didn't do the entire year because the year got in the way. But I always started doing this for the first few months at least. So what I would do is at the end of the day, I would send a message home on these apps to the parents or grownups of one student from each grade, just saying, hey, like, Sally did really good today. She was working a lot, and, she worked really hard and she was a really good leader. And I just wanted to share that with you. Those messages are huge. They take like 5 seconds. So what I would do is at the end of the class, if I noticed that there was a student being particularly awesome, I'd write it down. But I'd also keep track of who I contacted so I could try to send home a positive note with every student, because let's be honest, we can find a positive thing to send home, right? We see all the wonderful things. So being able to kind of be like, all right, I'm going to really pay attention to the good things a student is doing is a really good switch, because sometimes we only focus on the negative, or we only remember the negative, which kind of gets into the frustrating thing of like feeling that the class was so it was awful, but like, when you look at the facts, it was really just a couple kids that were kind of grumpy or a little tired or something, and it wasn't as big of a deal as you thought it was. Sometimes that's the case. So I love being able to do this, because not only does it allow me to focus more on like the positive side of things, it really helps the students and the parents see, that we're noticing their student when they're doing things good. Let's be honest, communication around concerts and performances is also a sticky situation that sometimes we get in. I always like to send home like a save the date months in advance, just so they have it. I send it a physical copy that's translated. In my school, we translated it to Spanish because that's the other language that was spoken. So we had a physical copy that was sent home in English and Spanish. I would send home a message through the app, which again would translate, as well as putting it in the school newsletter. And then if the homeroom teachers had a newsletter, I'd put that in there as well, so that they're getting it from all these different places of information so that they know about it. But then I don't just leave it out at that. I usually send home a message about a month in advance, and then a message about a week in advance, just reminding them, giving them more details each time. So there's kind of something new to say. So like the first time it's like, hey, save the date. The month before is like, hey, we're super excited. For instance, for the third grade performance, we're like, hey, we're going to be doing a folk dance night. So be prepared to move, wear your tennis shoes and some comfortable clothes. And then the week before it would be like, hey, make sure you're, we're really excited to share things. We're really excited. Basically just another reminder. So again, giving them multiple opportunities, sending something home both physically and digitally is good, because like we can't, again, it's not great to assume what students are and are not able to access at home or what their parents are able to access. So giving them multiple opportunities is great. But also just be super clear on everything. One thing I learned very quickly the first year that I did a kindergarten performance is that, especially if this is a family that's never done a music performance, they will need so much more information than you think that you need to give them. We had parents that were asking specifically, like, should I go out and buy a special dress? Like, do they need to bring any music with them? Like, very specific questions. So I always make it very clear. So for instance, my kindergarten story, I said, you can wear anything you like. Some people like to dress up to make it a little bit of a fancier event, but you can come in whatever you want. We just make sure that, you don't wear something extra hot, because up on the risers, it can get kind of hot, or any crazy shoes that would make it hard to stand. Like, I make it very specifically that. I said students don't need to bring anything. There's no cost to attend. They need to be here in the music room at 6:15. The doors will open at 6:15 or 6 o'clock or whatever. Like, give all the details, because otherwise, this is kind of the frustrating thing. Otherwise, a lot of parents will start talking to other parents for this information rather than just like going to you and asking. Like I've had parents who like went to my principal and was like, I don't know what's going on, rather than just like sending a message back to me, which is so frustrating. But like, what are we going to do? So making sure that we've covered our bases, send out lots of information in lots of different ways. This is a great way to be proactive, to make sure that we have all the information given out, and making sure that when parents hear from us, it's not just because something bad happened, or a student's not paying attention, or a student is doing inappropriate things or whatever. Like, we want to have positive interactions with our parents and our grownups, because, well, just like they do. I mean, think about it. If you were a parent, would you only want to hear from your teachers when something was wrong or needed fixed? I know that we can't have all the same level amount of communication with our students as someone who might only have 28 kids in a class. but because we see so many kids, but that doesn't mean we get a pass to not have communication. Finding a way to be communicative, to have that proactive thing, and just make sure that you're being clear, make sure that you are sharing all the information you have. And again, I think welcoming new students and new families is a huge way to build rapport. So with that being said, I hope you learned some new little tidbits or kind of got you re-inspired to reach out to some parents and some grown-ups when things are a little bit better rather than just when things are a little wild. We would love to hear your tips. What are your tips for parent communication? Go ahead and tag us on Instagram at That Music Teacher, or send us an email, hello@thatmusicteacher.com. If you are inside That Music Teacher community, which is our monthly membership, we'd also love for you to post your information in there so we can learn from you. If you are not part of our membership and you'd like to learn more about how you can get content-specific professional development each month, as well as a back catalog of pre-recorded sessions and a community that is pretty awesome, if I do so myself, check out the link wherever you're listening to this. And in case nobody has told you lately, thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of the students that you teach.